Was the absolute best conversation that we've had about sexual harassment, partially because we involve men and women, but we also had both generations. I think that's really important so that we capture it, because I have the history of kind of what occurred in the 90s, and you all are saying, listen, but this is the real world now. It was a really good conversation, and I appreciated it. Thank you.
Yeah,
I really did.
Thanks.
Because people also oftentimes put us in the compliance box, not surprising, but what else? What really matters to your generation?
You mean outside of Me Too, or
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
totally.
Me Too topic?
And, no,
Something else.
unrelated, right?
I mean, I think it's a moment where I'm seeing more and more employers, especially like out in Silicon Valley, I think, doing this is more kind of training around implicit bias and the more really subtle forms of put downs or discrimination or harassment or, subconscious
but do me a favor,
things.
stay away totally. I mean, I got it.
Yeah.
I understand it. We know the whole gamut. Other than compliance related, law related, what else? I mean, what else should we be thinking about from the employee's perspective? That would really be helpful for them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is compliance focused, so everything I can make it that. But transparency, I think, is big, and I think is like a millennial thing in some respects. Just really wanting to have transparent communication lines and non-hierarchical communication lines, and transparency I think is so important for so many of the issues that we work on. Going back to Me Too, we do a lot around pay transparency and pay discrimination, and just being transparent about pay. I think will help address a lot of the biases that end up seeping into pay setting. And I think also just, promotes employee loyalty and productivity, and it's just transparency across the board can be a really great way to get happier employees. And I think it's something that our generation is demanding.
Yeah, and I mean, my point to implicit bias is more to deal with things I actually think are not compliance concerns, but the things that people won't even really report, but, work assignment, like in a law firm setting, for example, as a new parent, right, being sort of just subtly not given certain opportunities that are, that maybe don't fall to the level of illegal discrimination, but that make employees feel less a part of the, less invested in the organization, less interested in putting their best foot forward. I think I'm seeing my peers be much more sensitive to those moments, and it's resulting in them just sort of giving less than 100% or looking for another job, right, when they just don't feel valued or respected in this somewhat like much less than a legal standard way, you know what I mean? And I think the way you get at that is more training, especially for the older generations, where this is just sort of how everything has been for so long, is you make decisions in this way to kind of get people rethinking, like, why am I making that choice that, about work assignment or whatever it is.
Interesting. Thank you.
So I'll tell you, Johnny, from my perspective, culture.
That's what
And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
But I mean, like,
how do you train to culture? I don't know.
Well, my wife does culture work.
That's
her.
It's
So
a
she.
big deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's
Like
the answer to most of our problems.
She lived in Panama in the early '90s, in the Pan American in the Darien Gap, and she stopped the Pan American Highway from going through. And in doing that, she learned so much about this culture of the Kuna. For 4 years, she was with them, and I don't think we do a good enough job in our organizations, because I've been in a ton of them, of like, what does culture mean? How do we deal with it? It's so complex, and at least get the breadth of it and start having breakthroughs in our technology around changing culture and in our culture around culture, that we become facile with it. I mean, we become really good at a lot of things. Like, I can give you metrics in accounting and recruiting, but we don't really have a handle on culture. So for me, that's like the big thing.
I'm just going to provide, literally, that's what we talk about. Ultimately, underlying all of the sexual harassment challenges and other forms of workplace harassment is culture. It really does ultimately get to culture. I can tell you, though, one of the struggles that we have is that people believe there's a good culture and a bad culture, or a right culture and a wrong culture, and there isn't.
Right.
And we, as an HR, profession, has spent time trying to say this is everyone should aspire to be Google or Silicon Valley, and what we know is Google has some structural
You don't know if you- that may not be the best goal.
We've always said, "Oh, that's it," or "Apple's it," and that's just not what big brands get a break. They get a pass. Google was signing significant settlements and NDAs when everyone thought they were just great.
Yeah.
And you were beating up on the truck company down the street and small employers, and you didn't realize at a very significant level, these prized employment brands were some of the worst violators. So it's what I think, and we're talking a lot more about this at SHRM now, is helping companies be really clear about what their culture is.
Yeah.
Just tell me, coming in the door, and then I can decide. When I went to go work for a big law firm, I knew 70 hours a week, they don't care about my kid, my parent, or anybody else. I have to be profitable because they're going to pay me a ton of money,
Right.
by the way, to come work here. And that's the trade-off. I could work at the government's office and make $75,000 a year, or I could make $180,000 a year for a first-year associate. Two people who finished law school, same class, same everything. But I understood what the culture is at this organization.
I guess I see like transparency and sort of bias awareness as two big pillars of
They are.
workplace
No
culture.
question. No
Like-
question. But career
Yeah.
development,
Yeah.
for example, career development. Be honest. They say if a firm says you got to work 70 hours a week to make partner here, okay, let's talk about that. And if I know upfront that's what's valued in this shop, then I know it. Now,
So
there
in
may-
2000
Of your points, like together, the Google example, from my own personal experience, the way this information about culture or toxic individuals even has been passed around is very much through this like informal whisper system.
That's
And
right.
so I'll not know about Google till I get there, and then people would come and say, avoid these 5 people, don't ever work with them. And so, but what I've learned over time is I'm getting that information because I'm in a position of privilege where I have mentors who are looking out for me and who are telling me those things that are really knowledge that's not shared by a large number of people. So I think a lot of the work we're trying to do is create more transparency as when you're entering a workplace to even know that this place has a particular kind of culture or good culture, or for people, who historically haven't had access to like that, those halls of like information or power.
That's why you have Glassdoor. I mean, Glassdoor is great, and companies don't really want to say what's so. I remember hiring project managers for the TSA when they were starting, and this was in 2002. And I was hiring all guys and all older and all military background. I said, look, you're going to have all of the responsibility and none of the authority, and it's going to be really hard, and it's going to be da-da-da. And the guys who wanted the job took the job
That's right.
because I was straight up with them.
Yeah.
But I had for me, I had nothing to hold back. I didn't have to not be honest.
No, it's really, I mean, you've kind of got it. This is so complicated because I think we're in the employment or recruitment process is really courtship.
Yeah.
And what we do is we only show up with our makeup on, and
Yes.
our haircut, and our
Yes.
best suit on. I'm using men and women
Yes.
examples. And you don't, when I sit through and I encourage people, let me tell you what we're bad at. Let me tell you about the things here that you may not like.
That's great.
And you have got to decide, do you want to work here? I had someone come in for an interview.
Wait, I want to say, Johnny, make that okay for companies to say.
That's what they have to do.
Yeah.
So I had a technology guy come in from Silicon Valley, and it was great. He came in sandals and shorts. I said, let me explain something to you. You will never work at SHRM dressed like that. I don't care how good you are. And I'm just going to tell you now, well, I want to bring my true self to work. And guess what? On our website, we used to have a guy with a Hawaiian shirt on, and it says, bring... And I was like, that's our problem. We are misrepresenting to people what it means to work at SHRM.
Yeah.
We have decided that we are a professional society and we want to be seen like lawyers and physicians and everybody else. And so there's a dress and grooming code here. You decide if you want to work here. I'm not going to debate this with you. This is what it means to work at SHRM. And by the way, it may not work for you. I got it. I don't work at Bank of America. I work at X company because that culture is not right for me. Employers are afraid to tell people up front. Instead, every person that comes in tells you, well, you should do this, and you should do this, and you do this, and you find yourself busily, and you become a mutt of an organization.
Right.
You don't stand for what you are. And now I'm not talking about illegalities or even inappropriateness. I'm not suggesting, but beyond that, you've got to say, this is what it means to work here. We don't believe in working remotely. If you want to work remotely, there are 499 other Fortune 500 companies, but that's not here.
Yeah.
Just tell people that, period. And that's where we're struggling, is we're busy trying to be everything to everyone and not being true to what our culture is.
Yeah.
That's a real challenge.
And the Great Place to Work awards are not true to what you're talking about.
No,
Yeah.
everyone's chasing ping pong tables and free food and whatever's the latest gimmick,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying this is what. And by the way, there are people who want to. There are people who want 9 to 5 suits, but there are people who want to work in that environment.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't want to see you come in shorts and flip flops and
Right.
have dogs and cats running around the office all day.
Yeah.
There are some people who just don't want that, and there's a naivete when we say, "Oh, millennials want that." No.
We want paid leave.
Some do, some do. Right, and that's the thing. And we just have got to get to that. I think when I get frustrated, it's with our employers who are trying to be everything to everyone, and invariably, you don't make anyone happy.
Right.
Culture.
Yeah. And around here, it's interesting around government consulting because there's a conservative point of view at government, and they don't put that out there.
That's right. They clearly don't.
They don't.
No.
Because it's very conservative, and you have people who are just not, and they get there, and it's not quite a fit.
Yeah. And we've all wasted time.
Yeah.
Wasted money. You pissed off people. It's just.
Well, I want to thank you so much all
Thank you.
for